Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here to make you another cocktail. Today's cocktail is the Stroke of Midnight cocktail, which is the featured cocktail in today's episode. We're going to start with our mixing cup with ice. To that, Cointreau. 1 ounce. 1 ounce. Grenadine, 1/4 ounce. Quarter ounce. Probably just for color. Then it says to stir briefly. Then we're going to take our chilled champagne flute and we're going to strain into there. Finally, champagne. Top off the glass with champagne. Booyah! There you have it, boys and girls. The Stroke of Midnight. Garnish with an orange twist if you have one. I do not. Not bad. I'm not a champagne guy, but that's pretty good. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the podcast. See ya.
We've watched great movies with great soundtracks. We've watched fair movies with really good soundtracks. But on this week's episode of the Scary Spirits podcast, New Year's Evil, we watch a bad movie with a terrible soundtrack. Full disclosure, I'm not a musical expert. I play no instruments, and I still really dig hair metal. But even I can tell when movie producers are trying way too hard to make the soundtrack a hit. But hey, if bad punk is your thing, you're in luck. This one's for you. Cheers!
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and/or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hi, I'm Greg.
Hey, I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different but highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I'm in recovery, Greg. How are you?
Oh, you got the post-Christmas blues, do you?
I think it's called the plague, but I'm not sure.
The Black Death.
Pretty much.
You got the goo. The
I got
goo
the
that's
crud.
been going around.
I got the crud.
Well, I'm sure we're all sorry to hear that, Karen.
Yes, I can feel the sympathy coming through.
Yes. All our listeners will be sending you positive vibes, I'm sure.
I'll take them.
Hoping you feel better.
I feel better. For a while there, it was pretty touch and go, it felt like, but I pulled through, Greg. I'm sure you're thrilled.
I am. I'd hate to have to find a new co-host.
I know. All those interviews would be terrible.
Tough shoes to fill. And so many of them.
That's That's good. That's true.
All right, Karen, I believe this film was your choice, was it? Was it not?
Oh boy, people, this one was mine.
And what film have you chosen for us this week, Karen?
I chose the 1980 film New Year's Evil.
New Year's Evil, you say, from 1980. Remember 1980, Karen? I know I've asked you that many times.
And it shows up big and clear in this movie.
Yeah, it does.
It's very 80.
Was there a character in this movie you could identify with, Karen?
Not really.
Okay, well, okay.
Did you find one or two?
No.
Yeah. No, it wasn't my scene.
Me either.
But it's probably the worst wardrobe in a movie that we've ever seen.
I made a note about that, Karen. We'll get to it. Any reason you chose this film other than this episode comes out when? January the 4th.
No, just New Year's Eve.
Just celebrating New Year's Eve. Do you enjoy New Year's Eve, Karen?
Actually, I don't. I always find New Year's Eve to be quite the letdown.
Yeah, me too.
Always these big expectations and just never lives up to anything.
There's always football, so.
Well, I mean the countdown and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I don't make it. And I guarantee I won't make it this year either.
I stay up, but
I'll be in bed.
I'm a late nighter, but just doesn't, I don't know.
Okay.
Doesn't do it for me. Just like this film.
You're not into new beginnings, Karen.
They don't seem to work for me, I guess.
All right. Do you have a cocktail for this film, Karen?
I do.
And what would that be?
It's called The Stroke of Midnight.
The Stroke of Midnight. And how would we make that cocktail, Karen?
You're going to need 1 ounce of Cointreau, 0.25 ounces of grenadine, and 4 ounces of champagne. First, you're going to combine the ingredients apart from the champagne in a mixing glass. Add ice and stir briefly. Strain into a chilled champagne flute. Top off with the champagne. Garnish with an orange twist.
Did you garnish with an orange twist, Karen?
I didn't even make the drink, Greg.
Oh, okay.
I apologize, but
I made the drink, but I did not garnish.
Looks good, though.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it might make you feel better, Karen.
It just might. Maybe tonight, but probably not tomorrow.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm not a champagne guy, but it's pretty good. All right, should we give our listener time to make their own?
Absolutely.
Pretty easy, people. Just 3 ingredients. Hopefully you have champagne. Leftover. But of course, it'll be flat then. But
no, you might just have extra bottle.
Because I had to buy a big old bottle for 4 ounces. If that. I don't even measure it because you just top off the champagne flute, Karen.
I know. I'm sorry.
But it was exciting when the cork went off. You should watch the YouTube video. So watch my surprise.
You're surprised that the champagne cork flew off?
I don't know. It's a cheap bottle of champagne. I didn't know what I was going to do.
Did you scream like a little girl?
No.
Okay. Well, I'll watch anyway.
I did exclaim something, though. And if you want to know what that is, you have to watch the YouTube video.
Yeah, if you go on our YouTube channel, Greg makes all the drinks there. So you can follow along and you won't be confused.
All right, let's give our listener time to make their own. Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Hi, Karen. Might you have a brief synopsis of this film from 1980?
I do.
Go on. Tell me a story.
New Year's Evil from 1980. Lonely women wanting to celebrate New Year's Eve become easy prey for a maniacal, murdering misogynist whose New Year's Eve resolution is to kill women at every stroke of midnight.
Yeah, I was a little confused when I read that synopsis, Karen. Number one, I had to look up that word.
Which one?
The one that begins with an M.
Maniacal, murdering, or misogynist?
Misogynist. It's not spelled like it sounds, Karen.
Okay, kind of is.
I looked it up. And also, I didn't understand, how is he going to kill a woman at every stroke of midnight? I thought he was going to kill a woman at every bong, right? Bong. So we had to like 12 women lined up, ready to go, right? At midnight.
Well, I thought he was going to travel to every time zone and do it. I thought he was going to.
We're closer.
I thought he was going to start in New York and go to Chicago. But then I realized there's no way he could do that. But
it depends on where you could start, like in Cincinnati.
Say, I don't know.
Cincinnati, and then go to, I don't know, Indianapolis.
True.
And then,
I think it's a little harder as you have to go further out west.
Yeah, probably. You'd have to plan.
But we were both wrong.
You were closer, though. So I'll give you credit for that, Karen.
I'll take it.
All right. Are you ready to get into it? Anything I'm forgetting? Other than that you're all about the evil? Because you picked, your last film was Christmas Evil, and now you're doing New Year's Evil.
I know. You'd think it'd be you.
I know. What's going on, Karen? Anything you want to tell me?
The plague has changed me.
That little devil on your left shoulder is getting bigger and
bigger. It's you. It's your influence.
Where did you watch this film, Karen?
I did watch it on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
Did you?
I did as well.
Did you see that it's only going to be available for about 11 more days?
I did. So by the time you hear this, listener, it may be too late.
Yeah.
You may have missed out. Sorry.
You might have to buy it after you hear this charming review.
Was there warnings when you watched it?
No, just a rated R.
Okay, because there were warnings in the description, and I made a note of them all.
Oh, well, please do tell.
Nudity, violence, substance abuse, alcohol use, smoking, foul language, and sexual content.
Yeah, pretty much.
All the good stuff, Karen.
It's all in there, but it's all disappointing.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
I mean, you'd think
there
with
was
all
one,
that,
good scene here and there, but we'll get to it.
With all of that in there, you'd think, well, it can't be too bad. It's got all
1980 film with nudity, violence, substance abuse, alcohol use, smoking, foul language, and sexual content.
I mean, that's a winner.
I'm all in.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Film opens, Karen, and I call her Roz Kelly because that's her name. The actress. Did you recognize Roz Kelly, the main actress?
I recognized her name.
Didn't recognize her from Happy Days when she was Pinky Tuscadero.
No.
Remember Happy Days, Karen?
I do.
You ever watch Happy Days?
I remember Pinky Tuscadero.
Well, she played Pinky Tuscadero, Roz Kelly.
I thought she was too old to play that part on Happy Days. I remember that. And I think she's a little long.
She's even older here, Karen.
I know. She's a little long in the tooth here, too. It's all centered around a Holiday Inn. Do you think that's product placement or
was it a Holiday Inn?
It was a Holiday Inn.
I did not notice that. I knew it was a hotel, but it was a fancy hotel. So I'll try to call Roz Blaze from now on. I'm making a note because that's her stage name in the movie, right?
Yes.
So apparently she's some like DJ or VJ or whatever, right?
For the punk rock scene or the new wave. What did they call it?
New wave. Yeah.
But she looks about 45, you think?
Yeah. And she's doing her makeup and hair. And she calls her assistant, Yvonne, right? To find out about Richard.
Right. And her makeup is very 80s, almost David Bowie looking, would you think?
I was thinking D. Snyder, but okay.
Yeah, maybe Dee Schneider too. It's a little obvious. So she's getting her makeup done and asking about Yvonne. Yes.
And apparently Richard ain't coming. He's in Palm Springs.
Getting coked up or loaded.
Yeah, and we don't really hear who the hell Richard is, right?
We don't.
So then we see her assistant getting ready, doing her makeup and crap, Yvonne.
She leaves the room that Blaze is in and goes to her own room. Yvonne does. Does not lock the door.
And there's an annoying water drip, Karen, in her shower.
Yes.
She tries to turn it off several times and she keeps hearing shit, like the door open. She goes out to investigate and there's no one there. She looks down the hall and there's someone way down the hall, but she goes back into the bathroom in her room, I guess her Holiday Inn room, and she's grabbed by someone hiding in the bathtub, Karen, with a knife.
It's all over for Yvonne.
So how'd he get in the bathtub, Karen? When she walked out, looked both ways, walked right. Listener, I'm sure you've been in hotel rooms. The bathroom is right by the front door, right, of your room.
I think what happened was when she went back to her room. He was hiding
somewhere else in her room.
I don't know. I think she ran into the room because the phone was ringing and she didn't lock the door behind her. So he could have followed her in right then because she was running for the phone. And
she didn't see him several times. She turned off the water to stop the drip.
She just reached in. She didn't.
She did just reach in.
And the shower curtain was pulled. It's a bit of a stretch, but
there's no blood in it. So I was waiting for the blood splatter on the shower curtain.
Or down the drain at least.
And no, nothing. Then we have credits, Karen. So strike one, no blood on the shower curtain. But a plus, we have one dead before the credits.
And she's African American, which is a trope. So the first one gone is the African American girl. The first of many tropes, but
then we have credits and we have Cheesy's 80s music playing while the credits are playing, right?
It's horrible.
And teens driving through the city. New wave teens and punks.
I would say teens in quotation marks because these would be like Grease teens, the movie Grease teens. They all look much older, at least in their 20s.
Well, they're drinking, Karen.
Oh, okay. Did you wait until you were in your 20s to start drinking, Greg?
I wasn't driving down the streets of, downtown Cincinnati in a convertible with a bottle of whiskey or whatever above my head, yelling and screaming at everybody until I was at least 21.
At least. You're a law-abiding citizen. You know better.
That's right.
So, yeah, they're all drinking and smoking and kissy face in a convertible.
And then a van pulls up, Karen, and we do see two bare breasts.
Yes, another trope. We just threw some breasts in there.
I know, the credits are playing, and we got
boobs.
Already, we got one dead and two bare breasts, Karen.
You'd think that this would be a good start.
I know. I was thinking it was looking
Here we
up.
go. Here we go.
All right, here we go. So the credits, whatever, go off, and then cut to a hotel, and there's a guard there asking punk rock and new wave teens for their tickets.
Yes. So apparently there's a show.
There's a show. And I didn't understand what the hell the show was, but
I still don't really understand what the show was, but still.
So next we see Blaze's son, Derek, right? He arrives with flowers.
Yeah, he's in a tuxedo jacket and blue jeans, and he has some wonderful news.
And some nice hair as well, Karen.
He does have good hair.
Apparently he got a part in a series, a TV series, and he's very proud of himself. And he wants to share that news with his mother, Blaze.
But they make a big point of Blaze kind of ignoring him. But she's got this huge show in about 5 minutes, and he comes in with news, and he wants to make her stop getting ready and talk to her about it. I'm thinking, she's got things to do. And she does say, let's go out to dinner after the show and talk about it. But obviously, she's very busy at that exact moment because she's about to go on air.
Yeah, she just blows him off.
Yes, because she has limited time before this show starts.
And apparently the show was called Hollywood Hotline. And it's a special New Year's Eve show edition of the show or whatever, because they're counting down the best new wave rock of the year. Right, Karen? Kind of like Dick Clark.
Yes,
Dick Clark's rocking New Year's Eve.
But for punk rockers.
Yeah, and they introduced Blaze as the first lady of rock, Karen. That's her moniker. And it's simulcast in every time zone, Karen.
Yes. But they're on the West Coast.
Thus the name Hollywood Hotline.
Yes. And she wants people to call in with their vote for the new wave song of the year.
She begins taking calls, and a man calls using a voice changer box or something, and he says his name is Evil.
And I thought he said he was going to kill someone close to her, but
he did. That's what he said. I'm going to murder someone close to you.
It's pretty bad.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Well, your imitation is good, but the whole thing is.
And we see him in the phone booth, but we don't see his face or anything at this point. I don't think. It's pretty dark. And then Blaze introduces Shadow, the new wave band, and they play a song. And then Blaze wants
the same song that was playing over the credits.
Yes.
In the New
beginning. Year's Evil, right? We hear the song about 5 times.
They're pushing this song hard, and it's not very good. Well, it's not my taste, I guess I should say.
Blaze goes to her producer or manager or whatever, and she wants the cops there. She's
a little rattled.
Evil man.
And at this point, yes, she wants police protection. And then they do a shot of the crowd that I think they're supposed to be doing a mosh pit, but it's pathetic. Every time they show these people doing a mosh pit, it's like
I called it slam dancing, Karen.
Okay, same thing, but they're not slam dancing. Well, it's intended to be energetic and full body contact. Okay. And it is neither of those things. But it did originate in the hardcore punk scenes of California and Washington, D.C. around 1980, it says.
Slam dancing?
Moshing. So I don't know about slam dancing. But it's just so bad. Like,
well, I think of moshing. I think of Anthrax, heavy metal, Cotton a Mosh. I believe they have a song called Cotton a Mosh.
Maybe that's why I used that term instead of slam dancing. Whatever it is, it's not good. They barely touch each other. They're kind of swaying. And the sound effects is terrible. And they go back to it like 5 times and it's horrible.
Then we see a phone booth. We see where the guy was calling from, and he's right outside a Crawford sanitarium. Karen?
Yes.
And we cut to inside the sanitarium, apparently, and all the patients are watching the program doing their own version of slam dancing. Or it's kind of like the Charlie Brown Christmas dancing.
Yeah, they're kind of staring off.
They're all bebopping around, jumping, hopping.
He does sneak in from the outside through the kitchen. There's a chef taking out the trash, and the guy from the phone booth sneaks in through the open door.
And he runs into a nurse who is going to go smoke her Marlboro.
With her Farrah Fawcett hair.
Well, yeah, duh.
But he's dressed in hospital gear now.
Yeah, he ducks into a closet and changes clothes. And he offers her champagne, Karen.
He says he's temporary help, and she's very happy to see him because they're shorthanded because of the holiday.
Yes.
But did you notice she was wearing a nurse's cap?
I did.
So I was curious. I mean, when did they stop wearing those? Do you know that they didn't stop wearing them until the late 1980s? I don't remember that.
Sure. I don't know.
By the late 1980s, the cap, along with the symbolic white uniform, had almost completely disappeared in the United States. So mainly
They're wearing scrubs mostly, right?
For comfort. But it was a way to keep the hair neatly tucked away. It originated in the early Christian
Still
era
probably
as
should
a
have been
head
using,
covering.
probably still should have been using hairnets.
Well, they used to just wear a head covering because they were mostly nuns who cared for the sick. And then in the 1800s, the head covering evolved into the more familiar white cap. And it's believed the first nursing caps were worn by the Sisters of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul in Paris. And they also used the caps to symbolize the educational background. Different nursing schools had specific caps for their nursing students. First year students wore one type of cap, and final year students wore different ones, kind of like the coat length on doctors. The short coats are usually the interns or whatever, and the long coats are the real docs.
If you say so, Dr. Karen.
The cap became obsolete because of hygiene. The fabric was difficult to wash, so the caps were a breeding ground for dirt and bacteria. And because of comfort, nurses began to distance themselves from the white uniform. They also realized that the cap served no practical purpose. And also gender bias, because male nurses didn't have to wear it. So now they both basically wear scrubs. But I would have thought it went out in the 60s or something. I didn't realize they had it as late as the 80s.
I have no idea, Karen. So next thing I have is that Evil and the nurse are dancing to a blues tune.
He's got his own mini boom box with him.
Yes, he does. Then the cops arrive back at the hotel, Karen, about the call that Blaze got from Evil. And they tell her, hey, if he calls back, try to keep him on the call. We'll try to trace it, blah, blah, blah.
The police are not very supportive because of the crowd she hangs out with. And that makes her angry. The cop says, you created a problem and now you're complaining about it.
Just like a cop. So Blaze calls Derek back up at her room and asks about Yvonne, if he knows anything about Yvonne.
But he's wasted, right?
Yeah, well, he tries to tell her something. He has something important to tell her. And again, she's too involved in her little New Year's Eve show here. And
her
Derek
little New
begins
Year's Eve show.
Popping red pills, Karen, red pills.
He picks while she's in the middle
pills?
Of her show to try to tell her something. It's not, I mean, it's the whole, I have a feeling this is reviving her career, possibly.
They look a lot like the red pills I was popping last week, Karen. The special high blood pressure, cold, and flu pills. Coricidin, is that what it's called?
I think so.
Yeah, they're red pills.
But he took a lot of them because he's starting to be a little loopy.
Well, it's fine. You can take them. They don't raise your blood pressure. It's good. It's all good. Now we cut back to the sanitarium, and the nurse and the Evil phone booth man are kissy facing.
They are. They've had champagne, and he's like, hey, he's kind of implying he wants to do something. She's like, I've only known you for 10 minutes. And he says, does that matter? And what does she say, Greg?
Oh, hell no.
Not tonight. So they keep kissy facing.
Cut to Times Square, 1 minute to midnight, Karen.
Yeah, and the nurses are at the sanitarium handing out hats and horns. So there's going to be a lot of noise when it hits midnight.
Evil presses the record and play, Karen, on the cassette.
Yes.
Player, because that's what you'd have to do, boys and girls. If you want to record what's going on with your built-in microphone in your cassette playing boombox, you have to
It was a Hitachi.
Record and play at the same time.
So the countdown starts from 10, and we see the switchblade.
Yep, switchblade, bloody knife, coming down and striking the nurse many times. What'd you think of the blood, Karen? Was the color okay for you?
It wasn't terrible. There wasn't a lot of it.
It wasn't. Yeah, it's not very graphic. You just see the hand, right?
Yeah. And you only see the shadow and the stabbing.
Next thing I have is slam dancing, Karen.
Which annoyed me again.
And Evil calls Blaze. And he replays the murder for her from his cassette recorder. He says he will call back in an hour. And he tells them where the body of the nurse can be found, generally. But of course, we see a nurse finding the body in a closet.
Well, she's looking for her friend because basically she's abandoned her.
Yep.
And they're already shorthanded. So she does. First, she finds her shoe.
What'd you think of the shoes, Karen?
Not terrible.
It looked uncomfortable.
Well, they are, Greg.
All right. So next we see Derek. And I'm speechless, Karen. I don't know what to say. He's got a switchblade and he's cutting lingerie, right?
He's cutting up his mom's red pantyhose.
Stockings.
Yeah.
And he's putting them over his face, right?
Yes. It's all I have is terrible acting.
And he pierces his ear, right? With a nail or some shit, right?
I think it's a hat pin.
I don't know.
So he's pulled the stockings, the red stockings over his head, but it doesn't really stretch very much. So it's hard for him to get the stocking over his head.
Well, they aren't fishnets, Karen.
Well, no, but normal pantyhose would stretch. So they're cheap. And then he pulls them down over his face and it's red. They're red. And he pierces his ear through the stocking. So it's holding the stocking down over his head. And he's speaking to himself in a mirror, right?
I guess. Next thing I have is he tries to call his dad again.
But the phone is busy.
It's busy. And something about roses.
He's ripping the heads off the roses that he brought for his mom. What's
the point of that?
I don't know.
Okay. Because obviously we know he's not the killer.
No, we've seen the killer.
Yeah.
We know who the killer is.
And we
don't know who he is, but we know that it's not what him. He looks like.
Yeah.
Right.
And here we see evil again. Putting on a mustache, Karen.
It looked pretty good though. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, it did not.
I thought it looked all right. It didn't look good on him, but as a mustache, I thought it looked
like a fake mustache.
Well, it did.
Looked like the mustache I wore back in like 1993 when I went to a Halloween party as John Lennon and put a blonde mustache on. That's what it looked like.
I thought it matched his hair.
It did match his hair, so he had that going for him. So next, the cop gets a call about the nurse back at the sanitarium, and he tells Blaze all about it.
I found a body and a nurse carved up pretty bad.
And Blaze is still worried about Yvonne.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Blaze is getting upset. I will say I thought that the cop was pretty handsy with her. Didn't you think? He was very intimate with like putting his hands on her.
Touchy-feely?
Yeah, and he looked like a poor man's Al Pacino too. I thought.
Well, his name is Chris Wallace, but not the Chris Wallace.
Not right? That Chris Wallace.
Not that Chris Wallace. And no relation as far as I know. Next we see Evil at a party, smoking a Marlboro.
It looks like a bar, stash. Right?
Yeah, he's at a bar, and he lights a Marlboro for a lady there, Karen.
There's two ladies at the end of the bar, and one of them goes off to dance with someone, so it leaves one alone. And now Evil has her in his sights.
Yes, and I recognized her from other things. Yeah, her name is Sally in the film.
And it's 9:30 where they are.
Cut back to the cop, and apparently he figures out the killer is going to kill at midnight in every time zone, Karen. That's his modus operandi.
And the cop says, Blaze, you're our only contact with him. She has to keep him talking, and maybe he'll slip up.
Back at the party at the bar, Karen, Evil tells the girl, Sally, he's going to a party at Eric Estrada's house. He's name dropping Eric Estrada. Which in the 1980s was probably a big deal. 1980. When did Chips run? I don't know. Eric Estrada was a big deal. Was he? I think he was. You knew who he was. 1977 to 1983, Karen. See, Chips. Right smack in the California middle. Highway Patrol. But he says he's not his manager or anything. He's just like a business associate and whatever. He asks the girl, Sally, to join him. Well, he goes, I have an idea. And I'm thinking, I bet you do. Why doesn't she come along? And she does agree to go with him, but she has to go to the ladies' room first. So it doesn't seem like he's planned this out. No. Right? No. Not really. Although he has all these outfits, which is bizarre. But he doesn't have his victims chosen. Nope.
he has his locations chosen, it
Yep.
seems like. She's going to meet him out front.
We cut back to the TV show, and we have the band made in Japan playing the song Dumb Blondes, Karen.
Yes. And I just made a note that this movie relies on the music too much, trying to be cool. But it's just
It's a time killer.
It's
Because
probably
we always spend like a few minutes with the music and the people slam dancing and whatever.
Yes, and every time I see it, I think, who's directing these people? Because it's bad. But it's already.
But apparently they're real bands. These are real bands, apparently, Karen. And I could tell they were real bands because they were really. I could tell they were playing what they were playing.
You could tell they were playing.
Wasn't good.
Well, it wasn't our style.
Playing.
I would say it's not my style, not something I'd be interested in.
No, Karen, it wasn't good.
So I didn't think that. I thought there was just way too much time spent on that. It's a short movie to begin with. You don't need all that. But anyway.
And we should mention that Sally is a blonde.
Yes.
And I'm sure our listener would recognize her from many other films. I think she was in Scrooged. Remember in Scrooge? You ever seen Scrooged, Karen?
No.
When the girl is taking Xerox copies of her butt and handing them out to everyone at the holiday party.
No.
Pretty sure it's her. But whatever.
So we go back to the bar.
Yep. And Sally comes out. Evil is out there waiting for her. And of course, she brings her friend Lisa along because, can't expect her to go with a man she just met without, a friend.
Back up.
Yeah. And Evil says, well, all right, let's I'm the Mercedes right here. And,
the more the merrier. And they're impressed by the Mercedes. Yes. Well, he's Eric Estrada's business manager.
Cut back to the hotel. Cop is asking Blaze if she recognizes anything about the voice of Evil.
Which is totally distorted, so kind of silly, unless he means cadence or something.
Yeah, it was words and certain words or whatever. And they're coming up on the Chicago feed, which means it's almost midnight in the central time zone, Karen.
Yes.
Next, we see Evil getting annoyed with Sally.
Sally's a chatterbox.
She is. But
Lisa's
in real life,
not.
She was an attorney, Karen.
Well, that's probably helpful as an attorney. But she's talking about transcendental meditation.
Yep. TM, TA, and Zen I have.
And now she writes haikus. My oldest son had to write a haiku in probably middle school. He wrote it about Cheetos. I was impressed. I thought it was pretty good.
Isn't like the last line 5 words or something? Is that how
I can't remember, but I do remember.
It ain't easy being cheesy. That's 5 words. And they decide to stop at a liquor store because the other girl, Lisa, has to pee. And so he gives Lisa some money. Hey, get the best bottle of whatever, champagne or something.
Gives her $100. Yeah.
And then he presses record on and play on his cassette recorder, Karen. And he suffocates Sally with the bag because, he asked her if, hey, you want to get high? I got some Colombian in this big bag.
Huge head-size bag, would you say?
Yeah. Put your head in there and take a swiff.
Yes. And she does.
So he suffocates her, records it. Lisa comes out of the liquor store and the car's gone. She does find a shoe, Karen.
Yes, which I thought was interesting that they found a shoe. The girl found a shoe at the first scene. Now Lisa's finding a shoe I thought, they're going to have a theme through this. No. Just happened to use shoes.
What'd you think of these shoes, Karen? What'd you think of Sally's shoes? Anything?
I wouldn't have paid for those.
Okay. And we have Friday the 13th sound effects.
We do.
And she comes to a dumpster and see like some blue cloth, which matched Sally's dress, right?
It did. Yes.
So Lisa opens up the dumpster and Evil is in there and he pulls her in.
He's got a lighter. It's weird. But I will say I did expect her to find the other girl. So, I didn't expect Evil to be in the dumpster.
Yeah, me too.
Pull her in and kill her. So I was actually surprised by that.
So she gone. Then Evil, calls Blaze and tells her where to find the bodies.
So he's done New York and now Chicago,
Yeah.
time zone wise. You've just listened to half of this week's episode. Are you loving it? If so, can you do us a big favor and leave a review wherever you listen? Reviews help us grow the podcast. We just want to say thanks so much for your support. Now let's get back to the good stuff.
Next, we see the cops at the liquor store, right? And they're following the blood trail.
They're following a cat that jumped out of the dumpster. But yes, there's also a blood trail.
And they drive right past Evil as he's changing, right?
Yeah, he's changing. And so he just stops.
At the back of his car. He's standing outside changing clothes and the cops drive right by him, right?
Yeah. But in their defense, that's not what they're looking for.
No.
They're trying to get to the scene as quickly as possible.
They eventually find the bodies in various ways in a swing set, Karen, right?
In a park. So they're in a park because they're on a slide and on a swing set.
All right. Next, we see Evil dressed as a priest, listening to the news on the radio.
Yeah, it was weird because he kept looking at a picture of a nun.
Yeah.
I didn't get it. And it was a nun.
That was his next target.
So did I, and it was a nun with a big headdress on, which they didn't wear that stuff in the 80s anymore. Like a Felician nun, for those of you who might know such things.
She had glasses very similar to yours, Karen.
Not a Sisters of Charity, a full-on Felician. But
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm trying to look very innocent with these glasses.
Okay.
But he needs a new victim because there's a new time zone coming up.
Yeah.
And he's listening to the radio and he gets surrounded by bikers who flip him off.
Yes, Padre. Call him Padre.
Because he's dressed as a priest, like you said. But because he's staring at the picture of the nun in almost looked like a yearbook or something. I don't know what it was. He runs over some bikers.
Yeah, he gets distracted and at a stoplight or something, he rear ends a biker. And they're not very happy, Karen.
No, they are not. They weren't happy with him before he rear-ended one.
And we have a small chase scene. And he drives into a drive-in theater to get away from the bikers. Blood Feast is playing, Karen.
Which is weird because they know what his car looks like. And he's trying to hide in the drive-in theater in open view. It was not the best plan.
Yeah, so the bikers are looking for him, and we see some teens, a girl and a boy teen, right, Karen?
Yes, and what movie was playing? What did you say?
Blood Feast.
Okay, is that a real movie?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But the teens are smoking pot, Karen, or at least the girl is. Boy with her has, he's got other things to do.
He's massaging her.
Yes.
Helping her out, getting a little tension.
And we see two more bare breasts, Karen.
Yeah, so they're at the drive-in watching the bloody movies. She's putting him off a little bit. Maybe next movie, she says.
Let some cop a feel.
Well, yeah. She's not very moved by it. She's watching the movie and smoking her joint. And she's like, whatever.
So Evil leaves his car. Bikers find it.
And they find him too.
Yeah, one of them does. And he kills that biker, stabs him in the gut, I think, with a switchblade.
Yes.
It's dark. You can't really tell.
He kicks the boy out of the car.
Leaving the girl in the back seat. Yes.
Yes. And he drives off with her.
Trying to cover herself up because she's modest like that.
She might be. She's not with her boyfriend anymore.
And the girl pleads with him,
She says she doesn't have any. Yeah.
I'll do anything.
Well, she basically offers sex and says she doesn't have any money. And then he shows her the switchblade. And then he just pulls over and almost hits two guys, which is stupid because now there's two
guys crossing the road. Yep.
Two witnesses. And the girl runs off.
Yep. She jumps out of the car. She seizes that opportunity when he stops and jumps out. He follows her through a park, it looks like, Karen.
Yeah, I thought it was a forest, but then realized it was not. because there are bleachers.
And the cops arrive, and the men who were in the middle of the road tell them what happened, and they go running through the park as well. Evil runs from the cops, and the girl is scared.
So as Evil is looking for the girl, because she's run off and she's hiding, he's tapping his switchblade on the bleachers for some reason. Is that something I don't know? Do you know why he was doing that?
Just to terrorize her.
Oh, okay. It was stupid.
What'd you do, Karen?
Okay, well, she's not hiding under the bleachers. She was hiding under something else, but the cops chase him off, and it's midnight in Aspen, so he was not successful.
Yes, then we cut back to the hotel where the New Year's show is going on, and the lieutenant makes a announcement to the show attendees.
To the crowd, yes.
And no one's allowed in or out. This place is locked down. And they bring in like some special crime pathologist or some shit.
Well, the crowd does not respond well.
No.
They don't want to hear any shit from a pig, is what they say. But yes, they brought in a consulting psychiatrist. Dr. Reed, I think was his name.
And he thinks that Blaze is to be the final target. Next, we cut to the entrance of the hotel, and we see cops denying access to a man.
But before that, there's a shot of her son in the red pantyhose over his face with the pin in his ear and like Devo sunglasses on. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't do anything. It's just this random shot. It was weird.
As you do, Karen, when you're alone in a hotel room. I don't know.
His ear looks very infected. It's all bubbling up.
So we see the cops denying access to a man to the hotel, and we see Evil watching.
Right. Yeah.
He sees
he
all
gets
this.
a ride. He gets a ride from someone in a yellow pickup, and he says, "Thank you, my son," when he gets out, because he's still dressed as the priest.
So then we see Evil in the parking garage. He's trying to find another way into the building, Karen. He's going in the back door. And there's cops guarding the back door, but he calls the cop over. Officer, I think I found a drunk individual. Can you help me? Something like that, right?
Pretty much.
Cop comes over, he takes him out.
Yeah, he grabs a brick and knocks his noggin.
And then we cut back to the party, Karen, and we have Made in Japan playing again.
And another ridiculous crowd shot. I can't get it. I guess they're supposed to be high. I don't know.
And we see Evil in the cop uniform.
Yeah, walks right in.
He enters the building and he goes right to a chest, right? Is that what you call it, a chest? And changes clothes again.
Exactly, which I'm like, why didn't he leave the cop uniform on? That would be the best one to have. And he didn't bring that chest in, so did he leave it there earlier?
Yeah, this is premeditated. All premeditated murder, Karen. Changes clothes. Blaze goes to her room with a police escort.
She wants to change out of her dress because it's too sweaty now.
And Derek is in there without the red stockings on his head now.
Yes, he looks back to normal. He's taken off all his accoutrements.
But the cop almost shoots him, but, Blaze explains, that's my son. So the cop leaves, Derek leaves. And
Derek ran out because he was surprised, and she asked the cop to wait outside while she changes.
And we see Evil in a Stan Laurel mask, Karen.
Which is so bizarre. And it's a big one. It's a
good one.
Yeah, but it's a cartoonishly large.
Yeah, we're
and it fits over his whole head.
Christmas Evil, Karen. We mentioned Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy in that one. You have a thing for Stan Laurel as well as Evil, Karen?
Yeah, yes. It's just my type.
But the man takes the mask off and, we learn it's Richard. Blaze recognizes him. It's Richard, her husband.
Yes, that's her husband.
That's our twist.
Mm-hmm.
Blaze tells him all about what has happened. And at one point he goes out and tells the cop, hey, I'm here. I'm her husband. Don't worry. Right?
But the cop is suspicious because he doesn't know how he got in.
And he says like the manager let him in, her manager or whatever. But he leaves and goes back to the trunk, Karen, right?
He does offer to stay with her, but she says no, she'll be all right. She asks him to go
Of course
find.
she does.
She wants him to go find Derek and talk to him because he's upset. So that's why he leaves. But she says, I'll see you both after the show.
So he goes back to his trunk, and right above his trunk is like electrical panel where the closed circuit TV shit is.
And I think the elevator controls.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah.
And he taps into it and watches the closed circuit TV.
As they're going up in the elevator, Blaze and a cop.
Yeah. Lieutenant gets a call about Richard, that his car was found at a drive-in, Karen, and he stole another car with a girl in the back seat.
And killed a biker.
And we see Blaze and cop in the elevator. Guess Richard is watching.
Well, they also say Richard was a patient at the sanitarium. So they're connecting all the dots. But yes, Blaze is in the elevator with a policeman.
And apparently Richard has learned how to control the elevator from this electrical panel.
With a screwdriver, basically.
Yeah. And some alligator clips, Karen. And the elevator falls and comes to a sudden halt.
Which apparently causes Blaze and the policeman to pass out or something.
And he goes in the elevator, does he? And he kicks the cop?
Yeah, he pulls the cop out and goes in the elevator.
And kicks the cop in the head, making him unconscious. And Richard reveals himself as the killer to Blaze.
He plays her the murders on his tape recorder.
And he says Derek told him about the way she behaves around other men when he's not around, Karen. He tells Blaze he killed Yvonne. He resents that he's had to ask her for his allowance.
Yes. He says, you castrated me, and that's not nice. And he thinks she's doing the same with her son. And I have issues with this that we can talk about later, but whatever.
He basically, tells her Derek got a part without using his last name, all on his own. But you didn't care. You don't care. But he wants to take Derek to the Rose Bowl game.
Yes, which is another
day, Karen.
It's another weird thing, but yes, they're going to let her sleep in.
Next, we see the cops searching the hotel. Richard chains Blaze to the bottom of the elevator. He takes it all the way up. And at the top, Blaze sees the head of Yvonne. Is she decapitated?
Yes, she is. Yeah.
Then the elevator starts falling down, Aaron. The cops find Richard and we have a short shootout.
How long do you think it's going to take that elevator to fall? I mean,
about 3-4 seconds.
Yeah, but they have a shootout and she's screaming the whole time, coming down the shaft.
One of the cops shoot the electric panel and the elevator stops. Cops chase Richard up the stairs.
Because of course he goes up. Why do people go up?
To the roof, Karen. They want to go up to the roof.
And what good is up at the roof? You should always run down. You have a better chance of getting away if you run down.
Back up at the roof. Richard puts his Stan Laurel mask on.
He drops the gun that he took from the other cop.
The cop is up there, pulls the gun on him, says, hey, drop the gun and the knife. So he drops all his weapons. And then Richard gives a soliloquy, I wrote, and jumps off the edge of the building.
It's Shakespeare. Might be Hamlet, maybe. I don't know. Shakespeare for sure. But rather, they're not going to take him alive. He jumps off the building. Which that was a little bit of a surprise for me. He gave up awfully easily after all of that. He just jumped.
Oh, he's a nut.
Well, still.
So down at the bottom, his body's there, and Derek comes and removes his Stan Laurel mask and hugs his dad.
And I thought, oh, sequel potential, because now Derek's got the mask, right?
Yeah,
but
and we see
I didn't have to wait long.
No, we see them putting Blaze in the ambulance, and we see Derek is driving the ambulance wearing the Stan Laurel mask, Karen.
With a whole crowd around him, and no one's paying any attention that he has this huge 2-foot Stan Laurel mask on.
It's not that big.
It's huge.
It's not that big.
Yes, it is.
It's not.
Is.
And then we see the real driver. I guess he's dead in the passenger seat because his eyes are wide open. And then we hear on the radio, Happy New Year from Honolulu, Hawaii, Karen.
It's almost midnight in Hawaii. So he's
Yes.
got time to kill his mom, I guess.
And we have credits. The end. And during the credits, we have special wardrobe for rock groups.
Oh, really?
Yes. Courtesy of, do you want to guess who the special wardrobe for the rock groups are courtesy of, Karen? In
Goodwill.
Hollywood.
Salvation Army.
No, today that's what it would be. But no, apparently there's a store in Hollywood at that point in 1980 called Let It Rock
Nice.
in Hollywood, California.
I was not impressed.
I wasn't either.
But
The end.
She had some good 80s hair. The mullet, kind of permed mullet thing, I guess.
All right, Karen, anything you were pleasantly surprised by or really enjoyed in this film?
I guess they did get me a couple times. Like, I didn't expect him to be in the dumpster. So I was surprised. I guess you could call that pleasantly surprised because I thought it was going to be different. I didn't expect him to just jump off the roof. So he gave up pretty easily. Well, I knew eventually, but he just went without any prodding or anything. So beyond that, not a whole lot. What about you?
I didn't expect him to be her husband, but apparently
I guess,
that was a trope at the time that maybe I've forgotten. It was so many years ago, Karen, and I was, just a wee babe.
Oh, yes. Barely out of diapers.
Expect to remember these kind of things. I like the mask, the Stan Laurel mask. It wasn't as bad as you say it was. Like that mask is like a fucking collector's item now.
Well, I'm sure.
It's a Caesar's Stan Laurel mask.
I don't know what that means. Is that a brand?
That's a brand, I guess. And I looked it up, and there's lots of YouTube videos of people unboxing their own Caesar's Stan Laurel mask that they bought on eBay or wherever. It's
a thing.
It's a thing.
Okay.
It is very good. It's not great.
It's creepy.
The sculpt, I don't think, from what I've seen from people opening their mask, isn't great. There's, I could fix the edges and smooth it out some more, but whatever. Anything else you really enjoyed?
Not
what about
really.
the music, Karen? Did you like the soundtrack?
Nope.
Did you?
No.
Well, we hear like New Year's Evil like 5 times.
Yeah, they were hoping for a hit.
They were. And the band Shadow and Made in Japan, they were real bands. And I'm sure they were hoping for the hit too.
Agree.
Don't think it happened though, because I don't remember hearing that song ever in the 80s.
Again, not what I listened to. So hard to say, but I don't think so.
What station did you listen to in the 1980s?
WBN. There was Z-Rock, but I think that was in the 90s.
It was later. Did you listen to 96 Rock?
I don't think so.
And the Power Pig, but that became
I usually
Z-Rock.
just listen to my CDs and stuff or cassette tapes. I didn't really listen to the radio that much.
Did your Chevette have a radio, Karen?
No.
So it didn't have
Not one.
floorboards or a radio.
Probably later it did. I probably had someone install one, but it did not come factory direct.
Anything else you liked in it?
No.
Okay. Didn't care for the costumes or the shoes or makeup.
Nope.
All right, Karen. What were you disappointed in? What did you hate about this movie?
The costumes, the shoes. What did you say? The makeup.
The makeup, music.
The music, the acting, the non sequitur pieces of it. The kid didn't need to be in it at all.
Hairstyles were pretty good, though, weren't they?
Her mullet was all right. Yeah, I'd say the hairstyles were all right.
Richard had his Bruce Jenner hairdo.
Yeah.
Before Bruce was Caitlin.
Before the transition, yeah. The 1980 Bruce. I think beyond all that stuff, I think what annoyed me the most about the whole thing is This woman is made out to be evil. We don't like her. She's not made into a sympathetic character at all. We're thinking she ignores her husband, she ignores her son, all for her career. But that pisses me off because she should be able to do that. She should be able to have a career, be successful at it, and not have a whiny ass husband and son who are threatened by the amount of money she makes or the amount of success she has. So they present her as an unsympathetic character because she's more successful than her husband in career and finance, and she doesn't have time to stop her whole life at a very busy time to listen to her 20-year-old son talk about something that happened to him that day. I just thought it was just bad all around, and her character is not likable. But when I really thought about it, I'm like, why are they making that evil? She castrates him because she's more successful than he is. I mean, dude, then do something about it.
I don't think we ever hear what he does. What the hell does he do?
He wants money to be coked up in where did they say he was? Palm Springs. And he's mad. It just rubbed me the wrong way the whole way through. I didn't like this movie very much. Well, but that bugged me the most Karen. Of all. I did. But it was
and you're right. She does say, hey, let's go out to dinner later and talk about it. I ain't got time for this shit right now, which is what I would say.
Right. And if you were a male character, nobody would be that upset by it.
Yes, that's exactly what I would say. Hey, nobody let's go out after upset. This and talk about it. I ain't got time for this shit right now.
Or they'd say, oh my God, look, he has to give money to his wife. Whereas, like feeling sorry for the man who is successful because he has to just give money to his wife, whereas she's evil because she has to. It was just weird. And I didn't, and the acting was horrible. And I just didn't like it. It wasn't hard to watch necessarily, but everything was just a lot of like when that shot of the sun with the hose and the sunglass, it just appeared like they were like, oh, let's do this. Where should we put it? Well, let's just stick it in here and then move on. And then there were the bikers, which were stereotyped. And, it was just, I don't know. And then he's looking at the nun and it was all over the place. Why did he have to change costumes every time he murdered someone? What was that about? I don't even.
Maybe he
psychosis.
Got off on that shit. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know, but I don't know. Anyway, what did you not like about it?
I have to agree with almost everything you said, Karen. One of these times I'm going to give my opinion before you give yours so that you can say, yeah, I agree with everything you said, Greg.
Okay, we'll do that next time.
I didn't think the son was needed. Well, I mean, he was needed, but
he could the husband
he's a sequel potential. That's his.
Yeah, well,
that's his.
Yes.
Role in the film is sequel potential, so
yes.
He's needed.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure we need to see him as much. Like the very end.
Well, they had to. If you're right, though, if he's sequel potential, they got to show he's a little off, which they do.
But would it be more impactful if they didn't show he was a little off throughout the film and waited to the very end to show that he was a little off?
I guess. But that would be way above this film, I think.
It took me back to the 80s, that's for sure.
Yeah, sort of.
My mouth watered a little bit when the girl was smoking pot in the backseat of the car.
At the drive-in?
Yeah.
Memories. Both. I would say none of the deaths were gory, but there were a good number of them. So you got your boobs and you got your murder. But
it wasn't like a slasher. Like I said,
with all of that at the intro, everything that was going to be in it was in it, but somehow it still wasn't very compelling. I mean, if you took out all the bands and the pathetic dancing, it's probably 80 minutes long.
Yep, they spent a lot of time at the show with them bands playing and slam dancing, and I don't think the soundtrack was ever really released. that New Year's Evil song was released on several different like compilations, but I think they were hoping
Yeah, I think they were hoping for a
to
hit.
have a hit soundtrack. Oh, hell no. It was bad. All right, Karen, what cocktail rating you want to give this film?
I might give it a 5.
Wow.
Well, we've given some okay movies 4s, and I would say this is as bad as Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. It's bad.
I'm not sure it's that bad.
Well, okay, maybe not that bad, but still, it's not as good as some of the movies we've given 4s to.
Okay.
There's nothing good about it. I
Well,
mean,
we have 4 bare breasts, Karen, and marijuana smoking and a
all
stained
right. Well,
laurel
you can
mask.
give it a 4 if you want to say your mouth watered it multiple times during the movie. If that's your criteria, then you give it a 4.
No, I'll give it a 5. I was getting ready to write a 4 when you said 5, so I had to change my 4 into a 5.
I can't. Sometimes we give a movie a 4, and I'll say, if it's on TV, watch it, because I think there are enjoyable parts to it.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, unless there is absolutely nothing else on TV, I wouldn't even say watch it. And maybe it's because I'm coming off the plague, and maybe it's a mood, but I really did not enjoy it.
Once again, I've seen like people I follow on Instagram and shit say that this is one of their annual films they have to watch.
That's fine. And, we're just giving it our opinion. So if it's something that you watch every year, tell me something I missed, because I'd love to hear it. Like why you feel that need to do that.
5 cocktails.
I'm open to having people tell me, why they think it's
come
worth
at
watching.
us.
Yeah.
Tell me why we're wrong.
And if
Info
somebody
at scaryspirits.com.
if someone convinces me, I'm happy to change it to a 4.
Bite us. Right. Comments on our drink, Karen?
I can't comment. What do you
have
think?
Any comments? I thought it was good. Like I said, I don't like champagne. That was a good champagne drink because you could barely taste the champagne.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it.
Well, at least something was salvaged.
Anything we learned today, Karen?
What did we learn? We learned about nurses' caps.
Karen's all about the evil.
Yes.
Slam dancing and moshing.
You brought up a reference. What did you bring up?
Dee Snider.
Well, yes, but it was another one.
I learned a lot about nurses' caps today, Karen. I did.
Eric Estrada reference when Chips was on.
Yeah, Chips.
That your mouth waters when people smoke joints at drive-in movies.
Yes.
Pinky Tuscadero.
Huh? Pinky.
We had a Happy Days, and
she was in other things too, Roz Kelly. I've recognized her from a couple things.
I recognized her name. I knew she was more well known than most of the other people in the film, but I couldn't place it.
Anything else, Karen, we learned?
I don't think so. Well, the bands. What are the band names?
Shadows and Made in Japan.
Yeah.
I think they're both Canadian bands too.
In case anyone wants to look them up. If I was going to do a drinking game, I'd say every time somebody had said evil and you had to drink, that might be a pretty good one.
Evil. Are we ready to move on to next week's episode, Karen?
Yes, it's your choice. Greg.
Oh, is it my choice?
So please lift us from the dregs that I have dragged us into and tell us what movie you have for us next.
Next week, Karen, we will be watching Dracula, Prince of Darkness, starring Christopher Lee.
Are you sure we haven't seen that one? Pretty sure we've seen that one.
No, we have not, Karen.
Okay. Why did you choose that film?
I'm glad you asked, Karen.
Is this another Hammer film?
Our next episode comes out January 11th, and Dracula, Prince of Darkness from 1966 was released January 9th, Karen.
Okay.
So celebrating the anniversary of Dracula, Prince of Darkness.
Is this the first one he was in?
No, it is the second.
Okay.
So this is the one where famously he said no lines.
There's a lot of those
Right?
where he barely speaks.
Yes.
So by the second one, he was already pissed
he was
off
already.
enough.
Well, he was over it. Yeah, by then. Christopher Lee says that the lines were. He refused to recite them because they were terrible, and of course, the writer says that he didn't write any lines for him. So,
Okay.
I've seen this film before.
I'm guessing I may have, but we'll have to see. They all kind of run together.
It is a Hammer film production as well, Karen.
Excellent.
I'll have to look up the co-stars in my new. What's it called, Karen? My new book.
Hammer Glamour.
Hammer Glamour. Yes. Co-starring Barbara Shelley. She's probably in there.
I'm sure she is.
And I have a cocktail, Karen,
Excellent. What would that be?
if you're interested.
I am interested, Greg. What is it?
Cocktail I have chosen is called Vampire's Dream.
Okay. What do we need for that?
We're going to need rum, cranberry juice, pineapple juice, and grenadine.
I'm going to have to go shopping.
I might. I don't know if I have pineapple or not left. Kind of not the season for pineapple juice.
No, it's
but
not. So we'll have to see how that works out.
Of course, if live somewhere tropical, I'm sure it is season for pineapple.
It's always the season for pineapple in those situations.
So we're going to need 2 ounces of rum, 7 ounces of cranberry juice, 5 ounces of pineapple juice, and 1 ounce of grenadine.
Okay. It's a big
Combine
drink.
the ingredients in a mixer and either shake or stir. Mix well. Serve over ice in a highball glass. If mixed right, it should be about the color of blood, Karen.
Excellent.
Makes sense. Yeah,
It
cranberry
does.
and grenadine. Maybe that's the secret blood recipe.
Yes, maybe.
Hopefully better than hammer blood. Right, Karen?
Yes, then ketchup.
All right, anyone you need to thank this week, Karen?
I'd like to thank our listener for tuning in. There's a lot of podcasts out there. Thanks for spending time with us. What about you, Greg?
I need to once again thank the band Verse 13 for providing all of the music in the Scary Spirits podcast.
The music does make the podcast better.
Anything else, Karen?
Well, we hope your new year has started off with a bang.
Yes. Hopefully this year will be better than all former years.
That's a high bar.
All past years.
We wish you nothing but the best.
We do.
And remember, please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Hey, it's Karen, and I'm here to talk to you about getting social with us. Did you know you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast? Or check out our website, scaryspirits.com. If you have something to say, email us at info@scaryspirits.com. And as always, thanks so much for listening. Please drink responsibly.